this series, I'm going to break down engagements that I've experienced in Tarkov and explain what went right, what went wrong, and try to explain both my thought process and what I think the enemy was thinking as well. And in this series, I won't just cover the times that I've come out on top, but also analyze my failures and how I think I could have done better. The goal of this series is to help slow down what are usually fast and tense engagements, so you guys can learn from both my successes and failures, and we can all become better players together. So without any further delay, let's dive into some clips. We're going to start off with a fairly simple PMC factory raid where the goal is to farm AI scavs for XP and loot. If done correctly, you can get around 24 kills, a load of experience, and a bit of average loot. I was using the SVD to complete a quest in which you need to get PMC kills with the SVD. Right off spawn, I start making my way to the offices. I hear sprinting off to my right, which is definitely a PMC, so I wait to see if he's going to sprint my way like a madman. I'm sure he's not a direct threat to me based on his footsteps, so I slowly make my way to the offices and towards the long bursts of automatic gunfire. Either two PMCs are fighting or someone is really having a hard time killing some scavs. Once up to the offices, I hold an angle down the hallway and look for peekers. This is a good angle to hold with some solid cover in front of me, so only my head is visible. Be mindful of peekers' advantage though. Don't hold this angle for too long. I am aware of an AI scav under me as well as the hole behind me and to the right. If I am too far to the right, I am fully exposed through the hole to anyone down on the factory floor by the pit. It looks like no brave PMCs are willing to push to offices, so I wait and listen for any signs of obvious PMC or player scav activity. After taking out an AI scav with an unsuppressed weapon, I know that other AI scavs in the area will be attracted to the gunfire. You can use unsuppressed gunfire on factory to lure AI-controlled scavs into choke points and bottlenecks. Looks like this is going to be a fairly quiet match, or maybe the other PMCs are trying to lay low. I decide to move for offices and use a little deceptive trick for opening both doors, then going through the first door that I opened. This trick works well, and you'll see why later. After in the offices, I hear an AI scav walking on wood, meaning he's very close. I take him out quickly. At this point, a wave of both AI and player scavs is spawning in, and I know I'm going to see some action. I pop a golden star for the painkiller effect in case I lose a limb and I need to stay mobile. Here's a tip that can give you valuable information while near the offices on factory. If you hear walking on wood, that means it's coming from 3rd floor. If you hear walking on broken tile, they're on the 2nd floor bathroom area. And if you hear walking on metal, they're on the steel catwalks on either side. The goal is to keep the office area and hallway locked down in both directions. If you close the doors and allow players or scavs to freely walk through the office hallways, you will lose a significant tactical advantage and open yourself to being pincered through both doors at the same time. This angle is a cheeky little spot that's great for getting leg and stomach shots to people approaching from this side. You can also throw grenades into the hallway from under this desk. If you wanted to know how many 7.62 54R rounds it takes to kill someone by shooting them in the arm, well, there you go. With the immediate area clear, you can use this time to repack mags or assess any injuries you might have. In this particular case, I probably should have brought more ammo with me on this raid. At this point, I'm now hearing sprinting on both my left and right on metal. This means that most likely player scavs or PMCs are moving towards my location from two different angles. I'm now caught between them, which puts me in a very bad position. One player walks directly into the office, and due to a mix of panic and surprise, I miss several shots but win the engagement after being injured slightly. Ducking into a corner to heal, I can hear lots of movement on both sides. It's important to resist the urge to heal completely while still actively in the fight. Healing is loud and completely lowers your defensive and offensive capabilities. If you don't see red and you're still mobile, stay in the fight. This is the point where I've sealed my fate. Instead of using audio cues as to where and how close enemies are, I've decided to make the office my fortress and go from being on the offensive to being defensive. A few AI scavs break in. But then a player scav uses my previous door tactic against me. By distracting me for a second by opening the second door, the player scav uses speed and surprise to his advantage to overwhelm my position. When I saw him in the doorway, instead of shooting his hand for minimal damage, I should have seized the opportunity to step to the left and take him out with 1 or 2 rounds from my powerful SVD. Now, on to the next clip. This next clip is a good example of how staying composed while under pressure and badly wounded can make the difference between dying or making it to extract. I'm still working on that damn SVD quest when I spot an enemy in the distance. You may be tempted to take a shot on a moving enemy at this distance, and while that is sometimes successful, I usually advise that you wait a moment until they are still to scope in on an enemy or regain stamina before taking the shot. I track our friend here for a while before losing sight of him in the heavy brush. I regain visual on the PMC and take him out with a single shot. Unfortunately, the following events prevented me from looting his body. I hear bushes nearby and immediately switch to the AK that I looted off a previous kill. The voice call-out tells me it's an AI scav and is extremely close. As I start to circle around the bushes to flank him, it turns out his call-out has attracted another PMC, and I hear sprinting to my left. I am now in an extremely dangerous situation. I'm caught between an AI scav and another PMC. I immediately rank the PMC as the more significant threat and shift focus away from the scav. This plan works beautifully, as the approaching PMC not only eliminates the scav and its threat to me, but I now have the element of surprise as the approaching PMC is not expecting me to be sitting here in such close proximity to a scav. Turns out that the AK I looted has significant recoil, as my initial spray is relatively ineffective. He responds with a devastating volley of 7.62 rounds, dealing massive damage to my stomach and right leg. But by maintaining composure and using the tree to soak up his shots, I respond with a quick and rapid fire from my SVD to win the engagement. But we're not out of the woods yet. Turns out our little battle has shifted everyone's attention to this direction. It's hard to hear, but suppressed shots are impacting the dirt around me. It's time to get the fuck out of here. As you can see, we're in a bad spot. I have numerous body parts in need of surgical attention. I'm low on meds, and I'm under fire. I listen for a while to see if we're going to get pushed, then move to a safer spot to address my medical needs. As if things couldn't get any worse, I've come unprepared for this raid. I only have 2 uses left on my surgical kit. Not realizing this, I only fixed 1 leg and then my stomach. Instead, I should have fixed both legs, allowing me to run without further injuring myself, especially as I have both food and water to help with the energy and hydration depletion that comes with a blacked out stomach. The moral of this story is, always come prepared. But I can't sit here forever. Making sure that I always have painkillers active in case I need to sprint, I slowly, very slowly, make my way towards extract, and I make it out alive. In the end, while I handled the gunfight decently well, my lack of medical gear and poor choices in the areas I chose to fix could have easily gotten me killed if I got involved in another firefight that didn't have me at a clear advantage. Now, before I go into the raid, I always make sure my Serv 12 or CMS kit has at least 4 uses left. There have even been raids where I had to do surgery over 6 times. Meds are cheap and easy to replace, your gear and weapons not so much. So always bring more than enough on every raid. Our third and final clip is a good example of how being patient and striking opportunistically can allow you to be successful even when the numbers are against you and your enemies are the juiciest of chads. This time we're on customs and looking to get into some dorms action, but we have a less than ideal spawn. This means that at the very least there will most likely already be one if not more teams already inside the dorms. For those that don't know, the dorms on customs is a location of many vicious and often confusing firefights. It's a perfect blend of several parties trying to take control of 2 buildings that have multiple stories and multiple access points, with long hallways and many rooms to duck into. At any given time, there are dozens of angles where an enemy can pop out from, and it can be incredibly difficult to maintain situational awareness. Since I'm here late and I don't hear any active firefights, yet I'm still convinced that there must be people here, I decide to hit the lower front entrance door rather than announce myself on the loud metal outer staircase. After I get inside, I listen for any sign of activity. There it is. It's faint, but I knew there would be people here, and I'm sure they heard me coming too. They've decided not to wait for me to come up any longer, and by using my knowledge of the building and its various entrances and egresses, I know that they're going to jump off the roof patio. These guys are geared. This guy just took several rounds of BS ammo, spraying blood on the wall behind him, and he's still alive. Normally this would be a good time to push, but I know it's a duo and his buddy could be anywhere, covering his injured escape. I know they're headed to the 2-story across from me, so I decide to continue being patient. I clear the rest of the dorms carefully, stopping to top off my mags and assess the situation next door. I don't want to sit in a window for too long, as that's a great way to get one-tapped in the face. The enemies have given away their position with a long burst from an M4. This also gives me more valuable information. It reaffirms my suspicion that they have great gear, as well as they are running extended mags or drums. I catch them leaving the dorms after probably killing some scavs, and I do some additional damage. It's not time to make any big plays yet, but this reminds them that I'm still aware of their presence and will add more stress to their current situation. After some more long bursts around the construction area, I know that they're in a fight and distracted. One may also be killed or injured. And even if both are alive, they may be looting. It's time to investigate. As I cautiously move up to where I heard the shots, I see evidence of the result of the firefight from earlier. It looks like one of the Chads is dead, but the other is unaccounted for, but not for long. By hearing running on a wooden surface, I know exactly where this PMC was coming from and was able to take him out with relatively minimal damage to myself. After healing in quite possibly the worst spot I could choose, I clear the immediate area and find evidence of more bodies. There's now a mountain of loot here, but there's also been constant automatic gunfire originating from this spot for the past 5 minutes, and it will surely attract every remaining PMC and scav in the area. Obviously, the AI scavs are attracted to all this commotion, but it isn't long until the first curious PMC shows up and almost ruins my party. To add insult to injury, a scav hits me with a few pellets from a Taz, but at this point I'm determined to walk away with this loot or die trying. I'm forced back into the street again, which is not ideal. The player near the container pass-through could be anywhere, so a few random grenades will hopefully keep him at bay until I address my most immediate injuries. Again, I'm in a really bad spot. With scavs firing off shots at myself and other PMCs, I decide to fall back into the brush to address my injuries. I'm forced to fall back even further as shots keep coming in and it appears someone is really after me. I'm forced all the way back into the dorms where I stumble right into someone else. After a tense moment, I back out of the dorms and apparently the guy inside was just as scared of me, so he lets me go. As if I couldn't catch a break, the player scav that was probably chasing me comes creeping along and meets a quick end. I'm still very injured, and there's still a ton of loot back at construction, so I need to patch myself up fast before scavs move in and take all the goods. The fact that I'm even alive at this point is a miracle. After some heals and repacking my mags, I'm ready to head back to the scene of the crime. Keep in mind, after surgically fixing a limb, each time it's fixed it now has a lower max HP, which lowers your overall HP, and makes those limbs easier to black out again. You are essentially now a little weaker than your opponents. I take a different approach this time, going through the container pass-through where I last knew of the PMC's location. I want to clear this area first to make sure at least one approach is free of enemies. And finally I make my way to my prized kills. Finally. The whole server has to be dead by now, so I can finally loot. Unfortunately, one more brave soul has decided to donate their gear to my cause. I'm not sure how his loudly sprint directly across the road tactic failed. There's only about 8 minutes left. I need to get what I can and leave. After suffering a mild stroke whilst looting in the most inefficient way possible, I check the last guy and then make my way out. A few more scavs stand in my way, but I make it to extraction. By being patient and knowing when to strike and when to retreat, as well as with a little luck and skill, I was able to come out on top of several engagements and make it out with roughly 1 million in rubles worth of gear. And that's going to wrap up our first episode of Anatomy of a Gunfight. I hope you guys got to learn from both my successes and failures in Tarkov. I hope this can serve as a building block towards making you better Tarkov players. If you like this kind of video, leave a thumbs up and we have a ton more content like this planned. If you'd like to talk Tarkov or play with us, drop by our Discord server. The link is in the description. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next one.